I was a terrible student in high school, dude. Terrible student. No colleges accepted me. There was a summer program for me to get into a state college in order to prove that I could take college level courses for inner city kids. And I got rejected from that shit, right? My guidance counselor in high school stuck his neck out for me and reached out to the program and said, listen, I get it. On paper, this kid's got terrible grades. Give him a shot. Give him a shot. They gave me a shot. I wound up getting into college. I almost fucked it up again. Like I'd fail out of school in my first year, right? But then I eventually turned it around. But I sent him an email and I said, I got a question for you. You were doing this for a long time. You had a good, strong reputation. Why'd you put your neck out on the line for me like that? And he said, you always had a good personality. People liked you.
My name is Ashanti, and welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast, where men get real. Men of all ages and backgrounds come to this space to talk about these masks we wear. The front of the mask are the things that we gladly let the world see, and the back of the mask are things that we don't talk much about. Maybe ask yourself, what are the things that you're talking a lot about? New Year's resolutions, big goals for this year, and what are the things that you're not talking much about? Today, sharing his mask is Jason Kyle Budahazy. Jason Kyle is a writer, he's a comedian, and he's a voice actor. And he's a head of creative at a men's mental health app called Mental, which I'm a subscriber. Today's conversation, you will hear not only his understanding of his own masks, but how the work that he does to support men around the world is transformative. The stories that we hear from men, the work that we get to do to help men navigate those emotional masks gets to happen on different levels. For us in Ever Forward Club, with the young men middle school and high school, and sometimes elementary school, and on the world stage, men around the world who are also looking for places to be able to navigate their mental wellness in a more healthy way. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. You're going to hear some quotes from Denzel, which I'm a fan. You're going to hear just a heartfelt man sharing his own story. You know, we don't do a lot of talk about our careers and passions and purpose around these jobs we have that are most exchange of us doing things for money. But it is a place for us to come together in these conversations to let men from all over see that we're not alone. That there's more to you, there's more to me than anybody can see by just looking at us. That's what these conversations are about. And for our listeners, Jason Kyle has provided a special gift. For anyone who downloads the Mental app and uses this code, you're going to get 25% off by being a listener to this podcast. So you go to getmental.com/TOTM, getmental.com/TOTM. And we're glad to offer you this first gift of one of our guests for you to deepen your connection to not only yourself, but the other people in your life. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. If you haven't yet made a mask, there's a couple of things I want to encourage you to do. Make a mask soon. We are about to hit our 20th year anniversary of the Ever Forward Club in May, and there'll be lots of celebrations happening. So we want you also to not only make a mask, but save the date, May 25th, 2024. And we look forward to you being a part of this journey with us. We'll see you soon, folks. Thanks for being a part of the Taking Off the Mask podcast. Enjoy today's episode with Jason Kyle. Jason Kyle, welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. Good to have you.
Bro, I'm talking to one of my celebrities right now. Like I'm fanboying out on you, dude. Like here's the thing, bro, you have been such an important piece of my life ever since I saw the 2015 doc. And for me, it was like, you know, there's a bunch of other people sitting in chairs and you know, they got their PhDs and they're talking all scholarly. Bro, you had your sleeves rolled up. You were in it doing the work. I'm like, that guy's doing the work. Like, I wish I had that guy when I was those kids' age, man. So, dude, this is an honor for me, bro.
Oh, man. I am. Thank you. That documentary is one of the things that I think, well, I can say is a highlight of my life, but also that it keeps giving, right? And I think as I watch it again, I watch it often. It's like is still so true right now. And I think we're much better than we were in 2015 in terms of providing more spaces like this, like the work that you're doing, like so men can talk about these emotions and feelings in a healthy way. Because if we don't, what we know is that we don't talk about it in a healthy way, they're coming out. They're coming out some way, probably unhealthy, sometimes sideways, sometimes the people we actually deeply care about and love. And I think we're just trying to make a space so that you can find the right people in your circle so that you're not like all pretending with each other and only talking about the weather when actually things are storming in your own life, right?
Yeah, man. Dude, I totally agree. You're a celebrity to me, bro. You and Leonardo DiCaprio, my two favorites. So if you get him on the show, bro, you got to bring me back.
Oh man, I see him in the documentary throwing money off the boat when he was talking about. That's what I see. Every time I see that movie, I see all those scenes, right?
Oh, that's right. Because that movie came out before, and then the docu. That's right, dude. That's right.
That's it.
Oh man,
that's right.
you, Leo, and Denzel. Those are my three, bro. You get those two guys on, and then I'm coming back.
Come on, let's go, man. Maybe you can help me. Maybe you can help me because I don't have no skills like that. But I think we could do it. I think we could do it.
Yeah.
I think we could do it. I think that the more if we can get what we've been trying to do is like in a lot of interviews we see famous people, pop culture people talk about these things around the mask, right? And we've been trying to like share how we've been seeing men talk about it in a healthy way. Like, oh yeah, I went through this thing one time. I went through this thing before. I've been going through this thing. And how do we name it? How do we give people a room to name it? Now, if you're famous, it may be in your mind like, oh, you know what? I got 20, 30, 50 million followers. If people get mad, maybe I'll lose 1 or 2 million. No big deal. But if you're a teenager and you got 12 followers, you're not going to probably jump on there and say anything personal about yourself. You're like, I'm not going to risk losing half of those, right? And I think sometimes it's easy. Who knows if it's easier? But I think as I get older, I realize, oh yeah, I even with my friends, even with friends from college who've known me for 20 plus years, I sit and we had dinner the other day and I was like, I really want to make this conversation go deeper, but everyone's talking about their kids and talking about sports and talking about whatever. And I'm a person who does this work for my work. And I'm also in this dinner, like trying to like, how do I shift the conversation? How do I, without like dropping a bomb in the middle of the table, right? Right.
You remind me of I mentioned Denzel, of a Denzel quote, and then, then we could jump in, but a Denzel quote where he said, small minds talk about people. Average minds talk about events. Great minds talk about ideas. Right.
Okay.
So because I know exactly what you're talking about. Look, dude, I worked in Hollywood. I worked with some of the people, and Hollywood is all about talking about other people. Right. So you know the size of that mind. So it's all about gossip and talking about other people. And what I try to do is pivot the conversation. I remember being at a table with people like that, and it was just gossip. And I said, I got a question for the table. If you guys had all the money and resources in the world, would you rather explore the depths of the sea or the vastness of space? And it just like silence for like a few seconds. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? Right. But for me, it was, can I pivot the conversation to actually get us to have some great minds talking about big ideas? Right.
Yeah.
So that's been a strategy for me. Can I pivot and get us talking about ideas versus like the gossip? But it's tough, dude, because, as I'll show you on my mask, it's like talking about other people and the gossip is easy, dude.
Yeah.
It's easy for us to do that because it's external. We focus on somebody else, their shit, not ours.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm excited. We're already in. Look, how about you tell folks about you? Tell them what you want them to know about you before we jump into the mask. Take what time you need to like just share who you are, and then we'll jump into the masks.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Again, dude, thank you so much for the invite on this, man. I'm a huge fan of you and the podcast, so I'm grateful to be here. Born and raised Bridgeport, Connecticut. Terrible student growing up, dude. Barely made it out of high school. Barely made it into college. Once I got to college, all I wanted to do was drink, do drugs, party, play baseball, right? And it wasn't until I got cut from the team that I started to turn my life around. So I took out some loans and did a study abroad trip. And I got to see the world, like 6 out of the 7 wonders of the world in the span of 6 months, right? Completely changed my outlook and perspective on the world. got back, graduated, took a job with a big company, hated it, quit, backpack Latin America, and then served in the Peace Corps in Albania. Spent about 3 years living, working, traveling Albania and Eastern Europe, came back to the US, took a job with a big company, hated it, Googled how to be a stand-up comedian. And then my journey to performing in entertainment was born. Now, I want to circle back to something important, right? I said I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Now, a lot of people think Connecticut, Greenwich's, Westport's, the rich white Wall Street billionaires, which is true. But Connecticut is one of the states with the most polarized race and wealth gaps in the country. It's a microcosm of the country, essentially. Okay. So with that, you also have New Haven, Hartford, and you have Bridgeport, where I grew up. Now, when I was growing up there, Bridgeport had the highest homicide rate per capita out of any city in the Northeast. And out of a high school of about 3,000 kids, I was a minority. Now, for anyone who's not watching this version and listening to it, I am a white guy. I'm a very, very pale white guy. Okay. But Ashanti, in my high school, of about 3,000 kids, about 80 to 90% were students of color. So I said I served in the Peace Corps. I studied abroad. I traveled the world. I backpacked Latin America. But dude, the biggest culture shock I ever had in my life was going from high school to college, where I went to college and I was surrounded by people who had the same color of skin as me, but they didn't talk like me. They didn't listen to the same music that I did. They didn't dress like I did. They weren't from where I was from. They didn't go through what I had to go through. So, you know, that was tough coming to terms with that. But dude, at the end of the day, I'm so grateful to have grown up around that diversity and that experience with different cultures and different backgrounds. And I'm proud of that. I'm not proud of all the money I spent on Air Jordan sneakers. I wish I had all that money back, but I'm proud of having grown up in that environment.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that resonates, the high school story, almost in reverse, because I went to a school that was pretty much, there was only one white student in our school, April. No, everyone knew April, right? The black girls called her white girl April. We just called her April.
Was there a black girl April? Because you know,
no, just because April. I think she always had to have a title, right? I don't know. Yeah. It was only one of her. I mean, I was always amazed. I was like, but I grew up in Oakland. That's how it was, right? And then I go to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and it's like 1%, 2% black, and maybe a few more Latinos and other people of color, but mostly not. And I'm like, what in the world? Now I knew a little bit about that, but I was just so excited to be getting away from home. And I mean, it was a different world. It was a different world. So the beauty of like being able to sit in that. And now there's a lot of students who come from Oakland or Los Angeles who couldn't last at Cal Poly because they were like homesick. They were not around enough people like them. And it worked for me as a place to be able to say, I love people and I care about people and I want people to hopefully find a healthy way of caring about me and I care about them for who they are and not how they look, and how do we make more space for that? You know, I think our world needs so much of that anyway. So thanks for sharing that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise, dude. Similar stories, dude. It's funny how that works, huh?
Man. And the opportunity you get to see the world, like, you know, like you talked about the Peace Corps. I mean, there's so many things I could talk about. And I got like thoughts and like ideas and questions in my mind. But first to tell you, thank you for sharing the Peace Corps story. Maybe I'll share a story about the Peace Corps. Peace Corps is actually a big part of I wasn't in the Peace Corps, but a friend of mine was in Honduras, in Ecuador, Honduras, and that added so much depth to my transformation of my life. So looking forward to jumping back in there if it comes up.
Yeah, man.
So you as a guest, you get to decide who goes first. Now, you get to decide if you want to share your mask first, or do you want me to share my mask first?
You kick it off this way. Because if I kick it off, I'll talk about just like one thing for like 2.5 hours, and like I don't want to do that. I want to go off of your pacing.
Oh man, well, listen. The show is.
I'll follow your lead, bro.
Okay. Well, just so you know, I'm always the show is opportunity for us to be in connection. So whatever happens, there's no script. You know, it's going to be exactly what it's supposed to be. I've been working on this mask. I'm actually going to design a real wrestling mask. I don't have it all figured out yet, but I'm gonna show you what I've created. This is one of the iterations is going to be. So this is. It's not finished yet, but this is a prototype of the million mask movement, wrestling mask I'm going to create. But the words I found today in this 2024 season: passion, purpose, and caring. And passion. I think I try and let people see these things. I don't know. I'm always talking about I am passionate about this work. I've used this word several times, but I'm really passionate about trying to transform our communities and our schools. I feel like I'm purpose driven, very caring. As I think about the mask, I think sometimes I'm wondering, are people seeing it in real time? So we had the opportunity. This is January's mentoring month, so National Mentoring Month. So we got to take our young men, invited by Mentor California, to the Warriors game the other night, January 2nd. Actually, last night? 2 nights ago. So look, these are a bunch of teenage boys. They're at a Warriors game. We're having a great time. Now, look, if you're a teenage boy, you probably threw a cup at somebody before, and then you throw the cup back. It makes no sense to really be throwing cups. I mean, it doesn't, but it's actually, it makes total sense, right? It's like, why are you throwing cups? Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to have a reason. I throw a cup at you, you throw a cup at me. Now, what happened, this one cup came and it landed and it hit the guy sitting next to me. Now, there was a seat between me and this guy. And in a moment, I feel embarrassed. Yeah. Like, if I think about like how I felt, like if I was getting really clear about granularity about how I was feeling, the cup came down, it hit his leg, it hit the floor. And I'm like, oh my God. Now, I am the representative of these young men in my mind. Like, this man doesn't know me. He doesn't even know they're with me. Mm-hmm. I know they're with me. Mm-hmm. And so in the moment, I'm like, passion, caring, purpose, but I'm also like, I want them to be seen in the best light. I don't want them to be disrespected. I don't want them to be treated poorly. I don't want him to call the security. I'm thinking about all these things, but so my mind goes into like correct the situation. So I turn around with a stern face. Who threw the cup? Right? They're all like stunned because they didn't try and hit the guy, and now they don't know how to own up to who did it. And now I'm like, and in that moment, the reason I'm sharing that part of the story is that, like, deep down, I was reaching around to them out of a place of deep, heartful caring about them, about what could happen if this guy was a jerk, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, what I have to do to protect them, and put on this stern face of like, what are you doing? Knock it off. And I'm trying to also not to be too aggressive because I'm a big black guy. So trying not to be the aggressive black guy. So I'm trying to be like 4 things at once: a caring mentor, a big brother to these young men, also a person who is like worried about, I don't know how this guy's going to react, and now how I got to defend.
Letting them know they maybe did something not great, right? Letting them know they kind of messed up in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that all those places of like, and also like, I can't really make him scream down here to say, I'm sorry. I could, but it's like, how much of that is like, so all the things that are at play in the moment, I was watching myself. And so I said, knock it off. Right. And so I grabbed the cup and I said, hey, sorry about that. And I passed the cup back and I turned around. And then, 3 seconds after I turned around, they were back laughing and goofing. Right. So I knew that I didn't dampen the mood too much, but I was careful about that, because I was also knowing that I'm edgy in my context about what I care about, So anyway, sometimes it gets taken the wrong way, right? My caring gets taken as aggressiveness, as meanness, as whatever. And I've had to do a lot of work about practicing the balance between how much of that is coming through in my words. And, so that's the mask. That's the front.
I thought you were going to say the cup hit Draymond Green and he came up and he just wanted to choke a guy. I was like, oh, dude. No, shout out to Draymond.
We're getting paid.
Yeah. I know. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, look, I had some time, like when I left that job consulting and I was like, what am I going to do? And I was doing stand up. That wasn't paying the bill. So I took a gig teaching, and I took a gig teaching improv and comedy, because at the way I saw it was like, if you really want to master something, teach it to others. And also I needed a paycheck, but I was teaching younger kids. So what happened when I was a younger kid and I acted out, I was yelled at. I was told, don't do that. I was removed from the classroom. So what was my first instinct when these kids, I had classrooms of like 30 kids. What was one of my first instincts was to try to say, no, don't do that. Stop. Have them leave the class and try to figure out in ways that where people tried to discipline me, and then realize like, wait, but that didn't work for me. That's not going to work for these kids either. Like, we got to be able to connect in a way, but also let them know they messed up. Also do it in a stern way. Also let them know we care about them. Like, it's really difficult and nuanced, but dude, it seems like you are so well aware of that and have a strong grasp on sort of knowing how to go about that. Right.
I'm learning. I think it's still it's a work in progress. You know, it's tough, right? Because I mean, I'm not a parent, but in this work, I feel like I'm in charge of them, right? So, how do you have to say no sometimes, right? Like if you're about to run into the street, I may not say, "Hey, please don't run into the street." I may grab you, shake you. I may yell at you. I may be aggressive with you, but out of this place of my heart, feeling like it's stopping, right? Like, and so yeah, all those. And the classroom is one of those places where it really showed up when I started teaching. So thank you for doing the teaching work.
Yeah,
I imagine there were some students who you deeply connected with, like who, like, I imagine any teacher I've talked to, like, oh yeah, there was that one. But
I love teaching, dude. I mean, even when I worked with big studios in Hollywood, like teaching people how to pitch their own show, like I love it. I mean, again, it's because, you know, you get to master something. Like, in another way, you know, that expression, you got to give it away to keep it, right?
Yeah.
But then another way of just being able to be of service and help somebody with what they're trying to do. And if you have just even a tiny bit more knowledge than them, use that and give it away, right? I mean, share that. Like, what do we? Damn, dude, this whole thing is going to be about Denzel quotes. Damn it! But I heard Denzel say, you know, you never see a U-Haul following a hearse. Meaning, we don't get to take any of this shit with us, dude. Let's give it away. Whether it's material things, whether it's not, especially knowledge and wisdom, right? So, all right, that's my last Denzel quote, dude.
No, keep them coming. Like, you bring all the look. I love quotes, so you never can do enough quotes. So, all right, so I did the front. Your time. Do the front.
All right, dude. So here's I drew the mask, like from the Jim Carrey's been a big influence for me since I was young, like the comedy and all that. So like I drew the mask from like The Mask, the movie.
Yes.
I'm not that good at drawing, but I did my best.
That's fantastic.
Okay, I got my three things that I have shown people for a very long time are charismatic, creative, hilarious. So for me, the charismatic piece, Ashanti, I mean, probably in a few different ways, like saved my life around, you know, I'd mentioned that I was a terrible student in high school, dude. Terrible student. No colleges accepted me. There was a summer program for me to get into a state college in order to prove that I could take college level courses for inner city kids. And I got rejected from that shit, right? My guidance counselor in high school stuck his neck out for me and reached out to the program and said, listen, I get it on paper. This kid's got terrible grades. Give him a shot. Give him a shot. They gave me a shot. I wound up getting into college. I almost fucked it up again. Like I'd fail out of school in my first year, right? But then I eventually turned it around. But I sent him an email and I said, I got a question for you. You were doing this for a long time. You had a good, strong reputation. Why'd you put your neck out on the line for me like that? And he said, you always had a good personality. People liked you. You liked other people. You're a charismatic guy. Like I knew there was something in there. And yeah, sure, maybe trigonometry wasn't your cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Ashanti, you know what it's like teaching or having seen certain teachers in the inner city. Like sometimes they're just coasting, dude. Yeah. Like sometimes it's not always about making a connection with the students, which is exactly what we need. You know, knowing someone who grew up in that environment, that's exactly what I needed. I didn't get it from a lot of people, dude. But that guidance counselor stuck his neck out for me because he said, you know, you always were just a charismatic guy. So like that charisma is something I am so grateful for and blessed with. Because, you know, I think about my life and kind of what it would have looked like had I been the bad grades on the page, the poor student on paper, as well as a closed off, introverted, isolated, even I mean, I was lonely, but externally it didn't look like that, right? It was charismatic externally. But what would have my life look like? And it's like, I mean, what are we doing? Are we just writing those dudes off? Like, so, I say all of that in that just because somebody has bad grades on paper, just because they don't seem like they connect with a lot of people or have a lot of friends, doesn't mean that we should not try to connect with them. So, and then, the creative part has been a big piece of my life. I work in the creative field. I mean, I'm head of creative for a men's health app. But that last part, the hilarious, dude, that's been a surviving mechanism for me, a tool for survival. Because if I can make you laugh, I escape from all of the pain and the shit that I'm going through, because I kind of externalize it in a way to connect with you, to make you laugh. And then I feel good about myself, which kind of will tie into what I have on the back of my mask.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Dude, thanks for holding that space for me, dude. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the description of like what you talked about, like being a bad student, like as a teacher who those are kind of my favorite students. Like, it's ironically, right? Like the kids who teachers like kind of hated were like my favorites. I'm like, he is so hilarious. Like what? And most of them, when like I'm who I am. I hold this stature. I'm like one of the few male teachers at the school. I'm the only black male teacher at the school. I'm also, I hold them high expectations, right? Like I push their buttons a lot, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not knowing it, just stepping on a landmine of their emotions in the moment, right?
You're talking about the students, not other teachers. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've stepped on many landmine teachers too. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a full service step owner. Like I'm just gonna ultimately I have honesty and care, right? But ultimately I defend the students. And so with teachers who are like thinking that they're in charge, who are not understanding the kids are going through stuff, and I'm like, I can't tell you his story, but maybe it would be helpful if you like one day ask him to come see you at lunch, or you talk to him after school, or hold him back after class and say, "Hey, Branch suggested I just check in with you." And maybe ask him what he's going through. He may not tell you right away, but ask him, because you should know that he is carrying loads that you would never know, because you're only looking at his bad grades, which is what you talked about, and you don't know that he's carrying loads that you could never imagine.
Yeah.
And it was me being an advocate for those students, which was helping build the relationship. And I think that was my secret power around school, right? I told kids, look, you don't have to like math. I don't care if you don't like math. Look, but I like you. Don't fail my class. Like if you try, you're gonna pass this class. If you try, nobody's tried and not passed my class. So forget what grade you get. Just don't sit here and do nothing, because I like you. You know what I'm saying? And I think trying to have that relationship that was different.
Ashanti, you said something so important. I just want to circle back to and hone in on. You said, ask them what's going on. They don't have to answer. What you're talking about is so important in terms of, can we ourselves, us, open the door just a tiny bit? It's up to them to walk through it. But I think this is one of the core reasons why in this country, 80% of suicides are men. Because a lot of men don't see a crack in the door to maybe feel safe with somebody else to talk about like what's going on. So if we can open that door and just give them a little bit of crack in the door, and then maybe we come back again and just follow up and not push them too hard, but open the door a little bit more and open the door a little bit more. Right. And then they see a safe doorway to walk through.
That's it. And imagine how many men want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But have been trained when they were 6 years old, 7 years old, 10 years old that, people will make fun of you. People are going to laugh at you. And then you hold on that memory of like, I got to keep it to myself. And then the weight, the pressure becomes so overloaded. I tell young men, look, a lot of you don't think you're emotional, but you're angry all the time.
Yeah.
Like anger is an emotion. You've been told that it's cool to be a man and be angry, so you don't think it is emotion, but you're so emotional, but you only have one emotion. You got a hammer and a tickler, and you mostly walk in this room with a hammer.
And that's a surface emotion, right? There are other what's under the anger are the key questions, right? And try to shovel away that anger to see what's underneath that, dude. But you're right. Man. If I think about Nickelodeon, dude, when I was growing up watching those Nickelodeon cartoons, they cut to a commercial. What were the commercials? Monster truck, race car monster trucks with two boys crashing them into one another going, yeah. Next commercial, two girls sitting down with an easy bake oven or a Cabbage Patch doll. And like, we've been conditioned for that shit since a really young age, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
now we just got to do our jobs in helping uncondition.
That's right. That's it. That's exactly right. We gotta unwash, rewash, dewash the washing that has told them that you're not allowed to be fully human, that you can't feel.
Right.
And I think that connects to the back, to my mask. So this is a new thought that and these are new words, so I'm really trying to find the words for them, but I'm gonna just share what I have on my mask right now. So the things I don't talk about much, but here is where it starts. A conversation I had yesterday with a mentor. It says, "My work is my value. Proud not to be prideful, and then shame." And the way he wrote them on the board when we were talking, it was like I operate under this idea that if I work really hard, then I will achieve big things, and I will be seen valuable to the world. And when I fail at achieving those things, like I've been talking about this book, and I feel embarrassed talking about it more because I have not made the progress I need to make on it. I feel shame around it. And in my mind, I'd rather not talk about it. In this space, I force myself to say the words out loud because I know that for me, I'm creating the safe space that I need. And I think that I'm hoping others will find for themselves too. And then this idea of like, if I accomplish some of those goals, then I feel this idea of pride, but all in my own work, and knowing that I am not in charge, like I'm not in control, this was not my plan. I didn't plan to be running a nonprofit. I wanted to be rich. You know what I'm saying? Like this was not Ashanti's plan. You know what I'm saying? I'm supposed to have my house in the Oakland Hills by now, like kicking back, and I am not. I'm nowhere near that. But I'm clear that my purpose is where I get to live through. So my work and my value is one that I'm really working hard on, and I'm having to journal a lot about that one now. Is like that feeling that, who am I if I'm not working? So even when I'm supposed to be resting, which I'm bad at resting. I'm not good at resting currently. I need to practice being resting more. Like I was on the couch the other day and I was like, dude, you better get up and do something. You better pull out that computer and do something.
Felt guilty.
I felt a serious sense of like guilt, like you're being lazy. When I'm supposed to, like I'm burning out. I was burning out at the end of December and I'm still kind of coming out of it. But I needed a break and I was like, I need to take a break. And because I'm not good at taking a break, I have this behind the scenes conversation. I've had to like do a lot of work around, Ashanti, your work is not your value. Like, and I can tell you, when I talk to my young men, like this is not how I talk to them. I don't tell them their work is their value. I tell them you are valuable, just you. But the messages that I have been telling myself oftentimes don't match the messages that I know are true. And it's because it's old recordings. So when I tell them something and I don't expect them to necessarily believe me in the moment, it's because I know what it's like to have somebody tell you that and be like, yeah, whatever. You can say whatever. But in my house, if I'm not doing my chores, helping my siblings, blah, 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 getting good grades, blah, 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 then I am seen as less than. And so that's those are the things it's really a brand new thought from yesterday, but I'm working through it. But that's my work is my value is the biggest one. I think that I need to do some work around.
I appreciate you sharing that, dude. Man, I mean, I resonate with everything you just said. You know, I think, going back to conditioning and what society tells us to do is that in order for us to build self-esteem, we have to look externally. We have to look at our accomplishments, our awards, our titles, our income, all of the people that like us. We have to look externally to feel good about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We're conditioned very early to follow this like step-by-step process of like, you do really good in high school and do these extracurriculars, you'll get into a good college. You do really good in college and get good grades, you'll get a great job. And then you'll get promoted and you get promoted and you get promoted, and to follow like up this ladder, right? Like, again, all of the external achievements.
Yeah.
when in actuality, they get us further from what we really need inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The validation we seek externally. And I know this, Ashanti, because I've done it my whole life, dude. And it's still a daily struggle for me, right? So it's like building that strong mindset of understanding that the self-esteem is built from within.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and you're mentioning purpose and work, and I totally get it, dude. And like, I don't, you know, for me, I'm so grateful now to have found very, very purposeful work that I get to do for a living. It seems like you have too. But we'll also still get fixated. You know, let me know if this is true for you. We get fixated on the results of that work we put in. And you know what I'm just starting to realize? 37 years old, I'm just starting to realize it, is that the result is the process of working on your purpose. That's the result. I don't need to do 10 things in order to get the 11th, because then what happens? Then I need to do another 8 to get the 20th. You know what I'm saying? The process, finding a purpose, looking within, those are the things that matter rather than all this external stuff we're kind of conditioned to believe in, right?
The result is the process of working on yourself.
Dude,
that's powerful.
That's it. That's the result. That's all we need. There's one thing I want to say real quick too before, and then we'll jump into mine, which is I just started doing some research on Stoic philosophers, and the Stoic Heracles developed what's called the concentric circles of concern, right? So if you think about like a target board, you have all of these circles, and it kind of goes from immediate family to extended family and friends to community to country to all humanity to earth and mother nature, right?
Yeah.
The word concentric means, a common center. Yeah. The common center to all of those things is the most important circle, the one in the middle, which is the circle of self. It's a circle of our own mind. All of those other things become byproducts, and the quality of those things become byproducts of that center circle of self, of focusing on within, right?
Yeah.
And like, to me, like there's a lot of purpose for me in like helping a lot of men understand that, because we get fit. I grew up in the culture where it's like, I mentioned the Jordan sneakers. You got the new Jordans, you're cool. Girls like you, you're pulling girls' numbers, you're cool, right? you got a nice car, and you got the new Jay-Z album 2 weeks before it came out, you're cool. External sources of validation, which actually mean nothing when it comes to our self-esteem, right?
Man. And I think that now that we live in these devices, and that not only us who didn't have them maybe growing up, but kids who have had them only growing up, who only have had these, this idea of that waiting for the timbre, waiting for the sound, waiting for the vibration, waiting for the knowledge said that somebody is like that. I matter only when this thing is happening, and if nothing's happening, then I'm going to try and find something happening.
Yep.
And sometimes I be on like the BART train or whatever, and I just watch kids how they interact with the device. Like they're just like, they're flipping, they're going so fast. I'm just like, how do they even see anything? How quickly they're moving between, I don't even know what they're doing. Like I'm not trying to look what they're doing. I'm just more like watching how they interact, and they're like going from this app to that app to this app to this app. And you're just like, I mean, it makes, it's so, and I find myself, I mean, I only own one or two, but when I'm on a scroll roll that I can't stop, I'm like, don't you need to do something? Right? I'm just strolling. It's like, what are you looking for?
I know, dude.
And I think that is the power of being clear. Like, what is the person that Ashanti, who I dream of being, what would he be doing right now?
I love that. Right? That's a great mindset. That's a great perspective, right? If we put ourselves on our deathbed, looking back on this moment, are we going to be proud of ourselves?
Yeah.
Right. And I love that. Like like if we could think about our strongest, best coach, which is our strongest, best self. What would our strongest, best self want for us in this moment right now? If we could put ourselves in that mindset, dude, man, then we're doing a lot better.
Hoo-wee. Thank you. Thanks for letting me share that. I'm still working through this new thought of how I need to redefine it and be grounded in self, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely, we'll have more conversation around the Stoic research you're doing. So I think this idea of like, oh, what voice am I hearing in my head? Like, what voice is that? Where's it coming from?
Dude, you want to talk about voices in your head? I mean, let's get to the back of my mask, bro. Holy cow. So for me, and I'll explain what this last one is in a sec, but for me, I got 3 things on there. I got insecurity,
Okay.
I got chaos, and I have what I call self-portraits. Now, it's interesting that you had mentioned shame. For me, like the honorable mention, or actually what ties all of these together, probably is shame. Because when I feel shame, then I get into insecurity, then I get into my chaos in my head, I get to painting self-portraits, and it's that vicious cycle that goes in a loop and doesn't stop, you know? So for the insecurity, for me, real quick, I grew up in a house with, I mentioned the environment that I grew up in, so a little chaotic. I grew up around violence in an environment, but in my house, my old man, Vietnam War vet, PTSD, rageaholic, alcoholic, and a mother who was emotionally numb and closed off, particularly to me. So not the strongest foundation to create a secure human being, right? So for me, that developed really, really severe insecurity around everything, around, myself, fitting in my own skin, comfort speaking. It was always kind of walking on eggshells ever since I was a kid, which made me want to externalize a lot of that, right? Which I mentioned, the Jordans, the music, whatever it was, right? Like trying to pull a girl's number and then bragging about it, because those were things that I thought were giving me a sense of security and self-esteem, but they weren't. Those were all facades. They were false senses of self-esteem, right? So, that insecurity is something I still struggle with every single day, but keeping it at the forefront of my mind, and because it's not something I've let people see. People don't think, he's like, oh, this guy's charismatic, he's funny, he's confident, all this. It's like, nah, dude, I'm barely surviving in there. I'm doing all this because I'm grotesquely insecure inside. The chaos, like you talked about, the self-talk. I mean, again, as a coping mechanism from that insecure childhood, I developed a severe anxiety disorder ever since I was a kid, and was just able to get rid of it actually this past year. But it was constant chaos in my mind as a result of it, negative self-talk, beating myself up all the time. That chaos also too has to do, ADHD, depression, OCD, all the D's, I got them. But the chaos in my mind around, like, why are you doing this? Why aren't you better? Why aren't you good enough? Why you should be, the compare and despair, that constant chaos in my head, dude, that I didn't really let people see. Because if I let people see that, it's like, they're not going to like me. Why would I say that out loud? Nobody wants to hear that shit. And then the last one, dude, self-portraits. Anytime, when social media first came about, like I was not immune to posting a negative comment on somebody's page, or like making a joke about someone at their expense. You know why? Because I was painting a self-portrait of how I really felt about myself. Anytime I exhibit negativity or hate towards the world, or towards a system, or towards a person, it's a self-reflection. It's me looking in the mirror. It's me externalizing that on someone else, so I don't have to look inside and look at it on myself, because that's the hard work. That's the painful work. So while I might, and I'll give an example of, like, if I say something negative about, when I first started doing stand-up comedy, I was negative towards other comics. I was like, he only does jokes about this, blah, blah, blah. Like, what, why is he doing that? Or I would criticize other people about their material, when in actuality, I was just upset that my jokes weren't fucking better. It was a self-portrait, so anytime, and I try to tell guys this, because a lot of guys are reluctant, if especially they're creative, they want to start a YouTube channel, they want to, do a TikTok, whatever it is, they hold off on it because of the negativity that exists on these platforms. Let me tell you something, dude. Anybody that posts something of hate or negativity or criticism is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves, whether they know it or not. And 99% of people don't know that, right? That it's a self-portrait, because they don't want to look at it, dude. It's why it's why this country loves reality TV. Yeah. You know why? Because they love to look at people who are more fucked up than them. Right? It's not like, oh yeah, Kim K, yeah, she's great, she's fun. It's like, no, Kim K's a moron, because I don't have to look at myself and look at, how stupid I am, or how I'm not doing in my own life. You know what I mean? So,
oh man,
and that's been me, bro. So I got to call it out. It's a mask. It's been on behind my mask for a long time. And I'm trying to get better at it. Anytime I have a moment of negativity, I have to stop and look within.
Yeah.
And see what that's about,
Oh yeah. That's power. Yeah. Thank you. I'm taking this in because I think about like the work that we do with these young men in our schools, and like when they're being super like mean to each other, and I have to like, okay, so how do I help this along in a healthy way, right? You could say don't do that, blah blah blah. That's not short lived,
right?
How do you help them without fancy words? How do you help them see that what they're doing is this projecting on others, and how they're doing it so that people don't pay attention to them, right? And how do you do it? Like, if you're, I can smash with some words, right? But that's not the goal. That's not the intent.
Right.
The intent is to learn. And I think for my own self, like, okay, this person is irritating me. This person I want to write something. And I have this file on my phone that says not sent.
Like, yeah, I
wrote it, but not sent, right?
Because I love that, dude. Abraham Lincoln did that. Abraham Lincoln wrote letters like to one of the generals who let Robert E. Lee escape. He was so pissed. He was so livid. And he wrote a letter to him and he said, "How dare you?" And he used all the 1800 Civil War versions of F-bombs in that old timey English. And he wrote the letter out. And on the front of it, he said, not to be sent. And he had a whole stack of those things doing it. It's so cathartic and therapeutic for us.
I'm going to find that. I don't know about that, but I'm going to find it because that's powerful.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, it's true. It's powerful.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your mask. I want to maybe just as we kind of wind this, how did this work now that you were working with, you mentioned about the app, but I want you to tell more about it. Like before I ask any questions about it, will you tell us about the app or the team you're working on and what you're doing? Because I think it's really important for those listening. Yeah,
100%, dude. I'll give you a little bit of history about it. So, I mentioned I did, I did stand-up comedy for years. And then, I worked for some big Hollywood studios, and that was just that. I thought that was going to be great. And that was just some of the most brutal, sad, unhappy work I've done in my life. And then I kind of moved on from that and did some freelance work. But it was like, I was really struggling with like, what is the next step here? Like, what's my purpose here? Right. Yeah. Like I got to let go of the things that I quote unquote want and then focus on what I actually need. Cause the more we try to go after what we want again, which are like these external things, the money, the status, the nice house, whatever, the further we're getting from what we actually need inside. Right. So I really did some soul searching and say, what the hell do I need right now? And then of course, I get a call from a guy, a good buddy of mine, Justin Cram, who I came up doing stand-up comedy with back in San Francisco in 2013. And he called me up and he said, "Hey, have you heard of the app called Calm?" And I said, "The meditation app?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I've heard of it." He said, the members of the founding team from Calm are starting a new app that's specifically around mental health for men. And I said, "Well, that's great. Tell me more." And he said, they're actually looking for somebody who can give it an edginess and bring humor to it. And I said, "Tell me no more. Introduce me to the guys." I was like, this is great. Like men's mental health. I've struggled with mental health issues my whole life. I mentioned anxiety disorder, depression, all that. So, we had a phone call and I met Anson Whitmer, who is a PhD in neuroscience and the founding team member of the head of data at Calm. And he said, I worked at Calm. It was great. But what we realized is that close to 80% of the don't quote me on the percentage, but something around 80% of the users were middle-aged white women. And he's like, as a man, I'm like, why aren't we reaching men? But when you're a company like that, and when you start to grow, you figure out who your target demo is. And you know what you do? You don't pivot, you double down. So they doubled down on their target demo, middle-aged white women, and like, we're not reaching men. We need to leave and do something else. So him with his co-founder, Tyler Schaefer, brilliant guy, one of the smartest dudes I ever met. He built the Calm app, had up their whole engineering team. So the two of them started this new company for men's mental health. They reached out to me. I was their first hire. And we've been off the ground running ever since. So the app is called Mental. And the whole idea is kind of, Ashanti, what we've been talking about for the past like 45 minutes around like, what's the mindset we can help men develop in order to, to look within and to detach from the external BS of things, right? We know that like a lot of times meditation doesn't work or doesn't resonate. We know based on the numbers that therapy doesn't resonate for a number of different reasons, whether men have tried it and it doesn't work, whether they're reluctant to try it, we know it's not reaching men. So we're approaching it from a different point of view, which is science-based and action-oriented, right?
Yeah.
Because what I've learned from my life is, the negative self-talk and all of these things that are up here in my head, I cannot talk myself into the right acting, but I can act myself into the right thinking, right? I can't think myself into the right action, but I can act myself into the right thinking. So if we get men taking action, but good, strong, positive, healthy actions and building good, strong, healthy daily habits, we'll get to the right mindset. We start stacking those one day at a time, right? Like we've heard athletes, we've heard, world-class, business leaders, entrepreneurs talk about these things. It's the small habits every single day that add up. So that's what the app is designed to do, dude. And sometimes I say the word shit, which is great. You don't hear people saying, bullshit and the word fuck on Calm, right? We talk like how men talk, like it's kind of irreverent. It's a little edgy. We use humor, but again, it's grounded in science and taking action and a strong message of how to build a stronger mindset.
Man, I've been on there and I have been, I don't want to give out too many details, but there's a daily. Can I talk about the daily dose?
Please. That's you're probably annoyed by hearing the voice because it's my voice of it, right?
It's part of my morning practice. Like I usually didn't have a morning practice. I think the first time I got in there, it was talking about your morning practice, right? Like, yeah. Like, and I don't know. I just remember like, I don't have one. I get up.
You know why we call it the Daily Deuce, Ashanti? Did I tell you? Right? You know why, right?
I made up a story, but I don't know the story.
I would love to hear your story, dude. So, but you mentioned it earlier, right? Like you mentioned, like when we're on the phone, we're doing like what's called the doom scrolling, right, on the phone. Yeah. So for us, it's like rather than doom scrolling during your daily deuce, listen to the daily deuce and strengthen your mind. What do we call it? Daily deuce, right?
Nice. Yep, I'm with you. I'm with it. My time right now to have a moment of, and I think that. Like what I know I get into because I'm in charge of all these things. I'm like, I get into work. Like what's on my calendar today? Mm. Oh, okay. Where am I going? I got to be. I got to be on that part of town, that side of town. And I jump into like the stuff and I'm like, and I don't have a practice where I'm like, okay, here's what today needs to be. Here, what are my intentions for today? Like I've not had a practice that I really have been happy with. And it's like, okay. So anyway, I just wanted to like I'm excited about it, and I think I've been I keep seeing these I make commitments. I make some commitments. You get the opportunity to make some commitments to like say I'm going to do something, and I think even though I make it to an app, like I feel like I made a commitment that I was going to start doing this, right? And it is not a shame thing. It's more of like, do I really want the results that thing could offer me? Mm-hmm. Or do I not want it? So take it off of my list because it's on my own, list that I made up myself. It's not like somebody's holding me to it. It's like I get to hold myself to it if it's important to me. If it's not important to me, don't commit to doing it.
Yeah.
I love think that is. So I think I'm just always juiced about it.
There's one other thing because you mentioned the team, right? So Matt Engler-Carlson, who's one of the world's leading experts in men's mental health, you had him on the show recently. Him and Anson. So in the app, we have something called, and this isn't a plug for the app. I just think it's kind of a cool feature because we talked about the therapy and how men tend to be resistant to therapy, again, for a number of different reasons, right? There's such a severe lack of male therapists. There is, I think, less than 5% Black male therapists, less than 1% Latino male therapists. Like there aren't the men out there that men can really resonate with, right? When it comes to therapy. So we built an AI stress coach. So anytime you're feeling stressed out, anything you have something on your mind, you can go in there and talk to guys like Bruce Lee, Marcus Aurelius, Muhammad Ali, right?
Okay.
To help bring down your stress. But here's the thing. It's not just you type into Chat GPT and say, talk to me like Bruce Lee and help me bring down my stress. It was developed and written by Matt Engler-Carlson and Anson Whitmer, PhDs in psychology and in neuroscience. So they are clinical interventions proven to work to help us bring down stress. So it's cool in that you get to do it in one of those guys' voices, and it's cool that it actually works. And it's also cool that like there's no copays. There's no monthly premiums. Like there's no, you don't have to call and to schedule an appointment and they cancel and then you wait another 3 months for an appointment. Like these are all things that are on our phone, walking around with us in our pocket that we can use to help bring down stress, control our anger and all those things.
Oh man, I've not seen that feature. I'm gonna look at that today because I think I've missed that one. So thank you for telling me about it.
Dude. Yeah, dude. Yeah. And look, and just as a sign of appreciation to you and to all the listeners, like, again, not to turn this into like an ad, but we got it. We're running a promo code specifically for taking off the mask listeners. So if anyone's interested in the app, like 25% off, like, in the grand scheme of things, Ashanti, it's already pretty affordable, but we wanted to bring the cost down even more for your listeners. So if you go to getmental.com/TOTM,
let's go.
That's the way to do it. You get hooked up on the app. Try it for 7 days for free. We have a Discord community, over 650 guys who are holding each other accountable for their weekly goals. I created a new group called Account Buddies, where like you come in every Monday and you tell the group what do you want to accomplish and the tasks and actions you're going to take. Then you come in every Friday afternoon and give us an update. It's not to shame you if you don't do it, and it's not to try to be perfect. It's we need that accountability of other men to help us get out of the funk that we're in and get us to the place that we deserve to be.
Let's go. All right. So get mental to tell them again. And we're going to put it in the show notes. We'll put it in the show notes, but I want to just say it again so everyone can hear it.
Getmental.com/TOTM. That'll get you set up.
I want to appreciate you for 2024. This is our first gift that we've been able to give to our listeners. And so man. I appreciate you and making this possible. And like, let folks know. So that's how we'll find you. And is there are you all on Instagram? Is Mental on Instagram?
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. So at the Mental app on IG, at the Mental app on TikTok. Those are the two that we're most active on. But also, like I said, we got a Discord community and it's for our users. But I mean, look, here's the thing. I'm not going to, as everybody comes into the Discord, I'm not then like saying like, hey, send me your address. I want to come to see if you downloaded the app. And if you're a user, it's like, it's a free community. Come in if you need some support. If you want to know like the progress that guys are doing, if you need some accountability, just come into the Discord, dude. It's free. It's like I respond to every fucking message, dude. I'm in there every day. Like to me, having this direct connection and this link to men is important to me because I know the value that I got from it, Right. So,
well, I know you didn't come as the rep, but you came as Kyle, Jason Kyle, and I want to appreciate you for being here. Thank you for sharing the work that you're doing in the world to make the world better for other men who may be in one of those phases you've been in and that you found your way through. So thank you for making that possible. And is there any last words you want to say to men out there that have been listening to you sharing your mask today as we wrap it up?
Yeah, man. Two things real quick is number one, thank you. I've said it at the top. Since 2015, whether it was actually like thinking about you and your work, or it was just sort of in my subconscious, it has been in my subconscious since then, that you have had a profound impact on me, brother. So I appreciate you and everything that you've done and the purpose that you've taken up. And it has been instrumental to me and tons of men out there, dude. So I'm so incredibly grateful for you and for your work, bro. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, maybe it won't get you the fucking Lamborghini. Who gives a shit? All right? Who the hell wants a Lamborghini? Where can you go 270 miles an hour anyway?
Right? In Oakland. So go down H14 in Oakland. I think people try it all the time.
That's true. The last thing I want to say to your point about the shout out to the users and what we could say as a takeaway. Here's what I learned, and it was the hard way, but it's something that I want to communicate to other dudes, and hopefully it won't have to be as hard, as it was for me. But, there's two things is that a lot of times as men, we struggle with perfection, right? We have to be perfect. We got to be the perfect friend. We got to be the perfect partner, the perfect husband, the perfect father, the perfect worker, the perfect everything, and live up to these really, really high standards. Here's something I want to say about that is that everything is already perfect. You're right exactly where you need to be, dude, right? It's already perfect. You don't need to strive to be perfect. It already is perfect. Whatever it is, just take the lessons from that and then go make it better. And then the other side of that is that every single one of us has the strength to solve anything, any problem from within. It's all right here, Ashanti.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all right here already inside of us, bro.
Yes.
We just got to tap into it.
Tap in. Tap in.
And that's what you're letting you do. And that's what you're helping dudes do. You're helping dudes tap into that inner strength, bro. That's power right there. That's what it's all about. Can we tap into that inner strength?
Yeah.
And then everything else is going to fall into place. You want the money, you want the external things, you'll get that. And even more so, you're going to get the things that you want that you never knew you wanted because you're able to tap into the strength within. Right?
Yes. And I think that is where I am right now, 2024, is this next phase of my personal work that I need to do is self, that inner circle of the concentric circles you talked about, the self. How much am I connected to myself and being okay with exactly where I'm at right now? While I think Parker, my book here, Parker Palmer calls it the critical gap, right? Between where we are right now and where we want to be. He says, don't get stuck where you are. Stand in the gap. And the more you keep moving yourself in the gap, you get closer to the person and the dream or the vision that you want to be. But if you stick where you are, then you're no closer to it. So stay in that gap. And that's what it's about. So thank you for that. And I think it's been my work. I don't do this work because I've got it all figured out. I do this work. I have these conversations because I want men to know that they're not alone. And so thank you for being here with us today, Jason Kyle.
Love you, bro.
I love you too, brother. I appreciate you, and I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for you. And folks, Jason Kyle and I, we share our masks publicly, but you don't have to do yours publicly. You can go anonymously to millionmask.org, make a mask. You've heard, we're going to put it in the show notes where you can get access to the Mental app, 25% off because you're a listener. It's our first promo. So I'm so happy after 100 plus episodes, 150 plus episodes. We're excited to move into the next chapter of this work. 2024 is here. We hope that you've made some big visions for your life. Jason Kyle, thanks for being with us today.
Love it, dude. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
And we'll see you all soon. Take care, folks. Be well. Bye now. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie and graphics by Kelly Wong. Guests are managed by Dan Paloma, and the podcast is edited by Samuel Matingo. We'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast, and for every guest that has been a part of the show, you are now a part of the Taking Off the Mask family. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is brought to you by the Ever Forward Club, and if you like what you've heard today, please subscribe, write a 5-star review, and share this with someone. We look forward to having more conversations that matter, and please remember, there is more to you than anybody can see by just looking at you.